All right. Good morning, Diane Cannon. Don't show all your excitement at once today. Good morning, Jessica. All right. So happy Tuesday. I hope everyone
Good
had a great,
morning.
good morning. I hope everyone had a great weekend and took some time to disconnect. And the interesting thing is now is like kids are getting back to school. People have some more time for themselves. And it's almost the fourth quarter, right? So I'll start off by one thing I continuously want to drive into our heads. Our goal as agents is to improve our skills year after year so we don't have to keep losing out to the same things over and over again. Repeat that. Our goal is to improve our skills so we don't lose out to things, time, money, year after year, over and over again, right? Because look, objections don't change. The way people don't make decisions don't change. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite ones. Another agent will do it for less. You ever get the commission objections today? Everyone should raise their hands, right? So when we start talking about someone should do it for less, the first thing that I want to do is create awareness around this based on ourselves, right? Because the easier it is for us to understand how we process information as consumers, the easier it is for us to understand how our clients or potential clients are doing it. Does that make sense to everybody? Just nod your head. You walk into a car dealership. Who's bought a car recently? Anybody? Okay. If you go, and who's ever gotten a car ever in their life? Everyone should probably raise their hand, except for some people in New York City who just go Bominos and Metro, right? So you walk into a car dealership. Forget even if the guy asks you what you want. Now you're into like the actual models, right? And there's an ESV, an SUV, like a luxury model, a base model, and everything else. So if you look at some of these cars, right, you could look at something like a Suburban, right? A Suburban, a base model could be $50,000, $60,000, and the fully loaded version could be $90,000, right? And at the end of it, they'll walk you through like the original model, but which one do they really want to sell you? The $90,000 one, correct? And at the end, they're going to say, would you like to buy this car, right? And you look at the person, you're going to say, well, why wouldn't I just buy the one for $60,000? That is the same exact thing as another person saying to you, well, another agent would do it for less. Why wouldn't I do it for 4% or 5%, depending on your market? Correct? Same exact concept. If anyone does not understand how the two are exactly alike, please hit yes in the chat box or hit no in the chat box. I'm sorry. Same exact thing, right? Now, who wants to join me in this conversation today? Someone unmute themselves.
All right, I'm in.
I don't know where you are, but it looks awesome. Nice blue skies, has a little tint of green. So now if I'm a car dealer, right, and there's a $60,000 option and a $90,000 option, and I'm trying to sell you the $90,000 option, what questions would you have?
What's the biggest difference between the two?
What's the difference between the two, right? So what am I getting at 90,000 that I wouldn't be getting for 60,000? Correct?
Sure.
Now, if I just said to you, well, you know, there's a great technology package we offer that will give you so many different things that will make your life better. Does that justify $30,000?
I think I need more info.
It's non-quantifiable, right? So it's just the same parallel as someone saying, well, I work at Compass. We have so much technology that's going to help you, right? Same concept of we have the best marketing in the world that we're going to do for you. It's not quantified, right? I need more information. So when they say another agent will do it for less, they feel that the perceived value between one person to another is identical. And one person said that they would do it for 4 or 5%, and the other person said they want 5 or 6%. Correct, Deanna?
Correct.
So as an agent, where do you feel challenged in having this conversation with people?
What do you mean by where?
Where, like if you're talking to people, right, and someone says to you, well, I met John at Redfin, they said they do it for 3%. What would you say?
Um, like before or after, like my sales pitch. You just mean like after
After, yeah,
they
you've gone through your whole pitch, you feel really good about it, and now all of a sudden I punch you in the gut and says, I really like that, but John at Redfin said they do it for 3%.
I know you always taught us a good line about, I know you value both of our time, so why did you bring me out here?
Bingo. All right. Thank you for listening. I appreciate that. So you could say, hey, Deanna, I appreciate you sharing this with me. Your time is very valuable. If you're happy with what John would do at Redfin for 3%, what specifically, make sure you add the word specifically in, what specifically made you take the time out of your day to meet with me this evening? Do you see what we did right here? We flipped it. When somebody says to you, another agent will do it for less, what do most people do? Someone here be honest before I have to blast all of you guys. What do people do?
Defend themselves.
Bingo. They get defensive. And what does that do for the other person? What kind of environment does that create? A combative one. You will always lose in these situations, right? So now let's kind of go, we'll rewind backwards, right? As we're doing our pitch, right? This is why you need to use what I call anchoring statements. Anchoring statements are statements that explicitly get your client to agree with you that what you're offering is the best potential offer for them, right? So give me someone to mute themselves and tell me one of their favorite things that they like sharing with clients that they do for them, and I'll give you the anchoring statement. Like, what's your favorite marketing thing, or what's your favorite thing that you offer a client?
Hey, I love the concierge service. My clients are getting a lot of value from that.
So so if I'm your client, how do you pitch concierge to me?
So I would want to quantify it by the percentages that I don't know off the top of my head, but I know there are percentages that tell the client, in general, if you use concierge, your house will sell for this much more, or homes that use concierge sell for this much more, or this amount of time faster.
Got it. So here, can I give you a tip?
Absolutely.
So here's something you want to look at. You're coming into my home, right? You'll want to find out just some basic things about the condition and whatnot, right? You'll go through, you'll med see me, and you're just gonna say, hey, just so I could have some accurate information prepared, like, would you say that your home is in the original condition you bought it in? Have you made any upgrades, or anything you want to share that you feel would be important for me doing some research on the potential value? And they'll tell you, right? Concierge, what you're selling is a transformation, right? So number one, it's the difference in a home from one condition to another, right? So you'll want to know, a lot of times these homes are dated, right? You'll want to know with $30,000 or whatever the limit is in your area of updates, what that number is, right? You could say, I would say to you, Tiffany, are you aware that homes that are renovated in your area are selling for X amount of dollars more? And they'll say, no, I did not know that. And you could say, and secondly, do you know that if you were able to put $25,000 in based on the homes that sold, you could potentially get $75,000 out? And they would say, no, that'd be incredible. And then I'd ask you, if you had an extra $50,000, what would you do with it right now? Right? And then they see the light bulb went off in your head, and then go, oh wow, I would do this $50,000. So is it safe to say that we could agree, if there was a way potentially that Compass and myself could front you that money, help partner with you to get that extra $50,000, that would put you in a very different place than if you just sold your house in the condition it was?
Yeah, and they can't say no to that, really.
But it comes, the thing with concierge is this: homes, right? Homes that are dated to updated, that's great, right? There are homes that would sell that are in decent condition in this market really quickly. Those homes, if you do concierge, the delta is even greater. Right? So these are all things you want to do. But remember, I made it very specific to them, and I asked them the question, do you think this would put you in a different position than just doing it without it, right? So now fast forward to the part where they say John at Redfin would do it for less. I would say, great. So if I understand this correctly, you no longer want to end up with the $50,000 extra dollars that we discussed that you could potentially have versus the savings and commission of 3%, which is only $12,000, right? Like you could do, but then this becomes a mathematical thing and you're never being combative, right? The same way to say those two statements, Tiffany, is you can ask those questions and help them get to the conclusion, right? A lot of this stuff is the sequence of questions and language you use to bring somebody's brain from here where they are to where you are. Because you got to remember the 3 C's. First, they become confused, like I'm not sure I really see the difference. Then they become overwhelmed, right? Which feels almost chaos, right? And then they go back to the 3rd C, which is certainty. Let's just go back with what we know, and this is all too much for us. We should just save the money, right? Because in everyone's mind, there's a difference between too expensive and I can't afford it, right? I can't afford it is just flat out. It's like they don't have the equity in their house. Like if they don't list at a 3% commission, they're going to have to do a short sale, right? That's I can't afford it. It's too expensive is I don't see the value in it, right? So when we go back to the car example, if we talk about the difference between $60,000 and $90,000, if you don't want the 90 and you got the 90, you're like, no, it's too expensive. You don't see the value in the options, right? And you're constantly bringing this back to them, right? It has nothing to do with you. That same concierge thing, you could be combative like most agents are that don't practice, that aren't trained, and don't know even how to ask questions. And they're going to say, well, you don't want the $50,000. You're going to, my favorite line is, if someone can't negotiate their commission, how well can they negotiate with you? Like these are lines that guys that worked in the 1980s. People are a lot more sophisticated. They have, Ernie's nodding his head. They have a lot more information. And by the way, this is the most important thing I want you guys to think about for this. If you are presenting this in a logical way that's practiced, that's data-driven, that's on what's best for the client, and they still can't understand that, do you really want to work with these people? No. These questions are just as much for you as they are for them. So if you go back to last week when we talked about, I'm going to just look on my own, great. What specifically do you feel the benefits are to you looking on your own versus hiring an agent? Based on that answer, you want to see if these people are batshit crazy or actually logical human beings that want to move into a home. In our market, you hardly ever luxury homes being sold by a discount broker. That sounds like I wrote it. So in your market, luxury homes aren't really ever sold by a discount broker. Is that correct, Heidi? So there's value that they have perceived there.
Never. Hardly ever. You'll see it from time to time, but hardly ever. So when you're talking about this, it makes me think like when I'm going into a lower price point, maybe a good way to talk to the people on that end, which I think people selling at lower price points, it all becomes, bottom line to them. But maybe that would be a good comparison or, somehow try to tie it in with that, how, what I'm trying to say.
I do. I feel you. Look, what she's saying is for people that are selling higher end properties, they want service and they're willing to pay for it. The concept of all these other things doesn't even enter their mind, right? The lower the price when it does happen, right? Who here has iBuyers in their market? Zillow offers and all that other stuff. So let me start preparing you guys for this, right? Obviously my job is to live in the present with you guys, but prepare you for everything in the future, correct? iBuying in my research and in my readings is becoming more and more real in people's markets, right? So you have to remember this. Agents need skills. So I called Deanna in for a pitch. I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure. However, then excuse me, I called Deanna in for a pitch. I'm not really sure about her. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should look at Zillow offers, right? A lot of times, even with iBuyers from the agents, there's a great post somewhere in Compass Workplace. I read about this. I've read articles on Inman about this. Look, they're calling the iBuyers in second, right? It doesn't happen primarily. They don't just reach out to Zillow. People still are reaching out to their agent. But if you can't clearly communicate your value proposition, you have a problem, right? They are going to start looking for other things. And then after a while, those iBuying services are charging anywhere between 6 to 10%, but they're not dealing with anything. So like if I have to pay an agent 5% as it is today, 6% depending on your market, right? And now I'm just paying another 4%. My house just went up with a ton of equity that I never imagined in the last 24 months because of the pandemic. Where do you think these people are going? They're going to iBuyers, right? So for all of us, it is very, very, very important to understand how to communicate with people effectively and not just talk at them, right? Your job when someone says, I want to, I'm thinking of doing it with another agent for less, anytime you hear that, that means you need to go back and work on your pitch and how you communicate your value proposition. Who here is coming to our event? Cool. We will break the whole thing down for you. If you could see, I don't know if I'll show you this right here. I have my little note over there. I've started mapping this all out, but our goal is to give it to you in a way that it's done once, it's communicated properly, and that you don't have to worry about it anymore, right? It has to be clear what you're offering. So when you get commission objections, it's one of two things. It's clarity on what you presented to them, or two, no matter what you say to them, they're bad clients and you should not work with them because they just want it for less, right? And to them, I see Irene smiling. By the way, cool glasses. I dig those. For those people, have you ever met people in your life where it does not matter like what you're giving it to them? For them, the win is how little they pay, right? They're not looking at anything else besides how much they pay. And for all of you, I'm telling you, that is not entering into a professional relationship. That is entering into almost borderline being an indentured servant. All right. I'm going to go out on that thing because these people, it's like people that come to us for coaching and they show up to these calls and you know what they say to me? I had a call the other day and the person says, what are you going to do for me? This costs a lot of money. Now, I haven't even met you. I haven't met you. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. I don't even know how I can help you, if I can help you, right? These are a mutual partnership relationships where two people meet halfway. So when somebody's selling their home, right, there's a whole set of things they need to do, right? Do they need to be honest about the work that they've done? Yes. Do they need to be honest if there are any outstanding liens, mechanic liens, things like that? Yes. Do they have to be willing and reasonable in letting people into the homes? Yes, right? Do they need to work with you in a way that makes sense and not contact you at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night because that's when they have all their psychological meltdowns? Yes, right? Do they need to work within the framework that you give them? Yes. Should they follow the communication plan that you give them in writing to provide them the information when they want, what they want on a consistent basis, so you're not getting 800 phone calls from uncertain people that are nervous all the time because you signed a listing contract where they're paying you $150,000, $60,000 and they don't even know if you're going to hear from you again. These are all the real world problems that are created by real estate agents. And when you get to that point where somebody says, you know, Irene, Luciana said she would do it for 4%, and the whole thing unravels, right? Because when you get to that closing moment and that happens, you think you've won the presentation. They've agreed with everything you said. They smiled, you're in rapport. You know, they told you about their kids, their family and everything else. And you're like, oh, I got this. And then that happens. Not prepared for it, right? So anchoring statements, right? I've seen a whole bunch of people come on. An anchoring statement is getting your client in explicit agreement with what you offer is best to them. So when you get to the point of closing and commission objections come up, right, you can be able to handle them by sharing with them in their own words how what you offer is best, right? So let me show you the magic trick here. So when people talk about commission objections, do you feel that the marketing at Compass is better than any other brokerage? By far, right? The stuff that you can do on Marketing Center for free is better than what they have at 90% of other companies. And you can do it in minutes, right? So I'm now pitching, and I'm asking Julia, right? Or Julie, I'm asking Julie, like, hey, Julie, if this type of photography was done in your house, do you think it would position it in a way that would attract the most buyers? Yes. Is there anything else that you think makes a great photo that's missing from this? No. So would you agree that having this type of story told with the right words that create enticement and excitement for your property, the same like a movie trailer, would ultimately get you the most buyers? Yeah, right? So now we go back to closing, right? We've done this with pictures and coming soon and private exclusive and the Compass network and all the great things we have to offer, our own digital ad platform, the insights reports. By the way, these are all things that we'll share more with you guys, but it's all free, right? Like, this is not even you spending $1 on anything besides the digital ads, which is very inexpensive. So now I would ask Irene this if I'm closing her. I would say, Irene, right? How many things, you can unmute yourself. How many things can you focus on at once?
Well, I try to do several, but really one.
One, right? So you're going to say, because you're going to now have told me that someone else can do it for less, right? And I'm going to say to you, and I would draw this out on a piece of paper. I'm going to say, look, going forward, regardless of what you do, I'll support you 100%, right? So I've pre-framed this by, even if she doesn't agree with me, that it's okay. I don't really care. So as you had said, it's very important to use their own words and not make up our own. As you had said, you could only focus on one thing at a time, correct?
Yes.
So I would draw, say the property's $1 million. Commission objections are generally 1% difference, right? That's what we find. So I would say $1 million. I would draw that number really big. And then I'd write the word or, and then I'd write the number $10,000, right? You know, based on being able to focus on 1%, and Irene, you had shared that you felt this marking would be the best representation, and having 100 or more buyers doing online showings prior to the home even going on the market would ultimately get you the best price. So we find that since we agree that you can only focus on one thing, you can either focus on how you can maximize this $1 million, or your focus could go how you could save $10,000. Which one do you think would be best for you?
Maximize the million.
Maximize the million. Now, everyone that's taking notes, put an asterisk here. People that are commission discounters are also serial overpricers. Have you ever noticed that? They buy listings. So the data point to know, right, is in this market especially, if people overprice a listing, how much it costs the seller, right? Because this isn't it's never a 1% price drop. A 1% price drop will never make someone buy a property. It's 3 to 5%, generally speaking. And it's generally 1 to 3 price drops that get them to where they want to go. So if you have this data point, you are 100% prepared for these commission objections, right? Because they're going to overprice it. They're going to do less commission, and the marketing is going to be different. So if someone wants to focus, Irene, on that discount, is that the right client for you? No. But then again, look, if you know that the property is going to sell in 2 minutes, you have a choice then if you want to take it at 5% versus 6% or whatever the numbers are based on your market. Correct?
Yes. And it's all depending upon what kind of space you have to deal with that.
Yes. But again, now this becomes your choice versus reacting to what someone else says. Now, let's hit yes in the box. Let's have a moment of honesty here. How many people actually practice their pitch every single week? A lot of no's. So here's my question to you. And here's my crystal ball in the future, right? When COVID started, and for my friends here from New York City, we literally had a stopwatch out, and I would like massacre people on like up, but to the same way my my communication teacher did when I was in college. We had a class that had about 200 students, and in the end, there were 15. And this woman would literally put these videos up of people talking, have people grade them, and would say, hey, congratulations, you can't get a job going, and people would just drop out, right? And for the 15 of us that made it, we were very successful in our lives at communicating with people because we realized that it's like an actual art, right? So if you know iBuyers are coming, you know discounted commissions are coming, you know that properties are selling faster than ever, homeowners have more equity, which equals more options, you have to own these skills. There is a clear separation coming. The people that we know that practiced during COVID, during those lockdowns, their pitch conversions improved by 90%. If any of you have ever spoken to Justin Martinez in our group, he's cold calling, as he says in his words, Israeli developers that want everything for nothing and don't even want to talk to people. And he's able to convert these pitches now, right? Because he's practiced over and over and over again, right? I'm not the smartest person in the world. I've just done this over and over and over again, right? Like the program Pitching Compass, that was my brainchild when I got to Compass. I had to learn how to pitch Compass better than people that were at this company 5 years longer than I was. And it's because I practice it every single day over and over again. So we all put so much time in our business to so many things. 15 to 20 minutes a day, you should all practice your pitch, right? Are you guys signed up in our Mighty Networks, right? On our platform, in our community. There's a role play group. Everyone go on there today. Andrew, post a link in here just so people can get on there. There's a role-playing group. Go find a role-play partner. Find one part of your pitch that you want to practice and practice it over and over and over again till you get it. So when someone gives you this objection, you sit there and smile because you know you can answer it. And I'll leave everyone with what Kobe Bryant said in one of his interviews. Huge Kobe Bryant fan. They said to him, you know, when you get the ball at the end of the game to take that shot, are you ever nervous? And he looked at them, he goes, are you crazy? He goes, no. He goes, I've practiced that same shot so many times over and over and over again. I know that there's a 0% chance that I could have been better prepared to take it. So regardless of what happens, I'm okay with it. There's nothing I have left on the table, right? I've already done it. It's the same way that he started outperforming everyone in the NBA. They asked him, Kobe, why 4 a.m.? Because he goes, I know I can get 1 to 2 extra workouts a day. And considering I'm this much younger than people and they're all further developed, first year, 2 years, it's not going to be much. But by years 3, 4, and 5, he's like, I'm going to be so much further ahead of everyone known to catch me. And the rest of his career is history. So I challenge you to take that same mindset to your business, right? You need to ruthlessly focus on this because that pitch that you go on with your clients is never going to change. And the amount of people that don't practice it and are still losing out to the same things is probably never going to change either. Because for all of us, we all work at the same company. I've worked there both as an employee and doing this. I've spoken to thousands of agents around the country. When we've asked people in national retreat presentations, have you guys practiced your pitch? It is a skeleton group of people that raise their hand. I want everyone here to be very prepared for this because your life gets easier. This is how you get time back. You get the right clients that have your value, that actually feel and perceive your value the same way you're sharing it. So what I would want you guys to do is reach out in Mighty Networks and prepare what you say when someone says to you another agent would do it for less. And practice and practice and practice this till you have actually mastered it. Luciana, I just want to unmute you for 1 second. You've been doing a lot of practicing. To inspire the group, what happens when you actually practice? Share with everyone your results and what you've learned in learning how to communicate with people differently. You got to unmute yourself.
Yes, I won listings based on the practice that I had done with you. You know, just putting the questions back to the seller and making them come to the conclusion that, including the last one was, they asked me to cut my commission and and I had already sold his house, and then he was giving me an apartment to sell. And I took the conversation, narrowing down for him to come to the conclusion that I had value to add, and therefore I was not going to cut my commission. And he had the experience of being with a realtor for over 2 years and not sold his apartment. So,
And how much was this apartment?
$5 million. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So Luciana is going to have the best year of her career. She's been having the right client. She's been able to get them to price effectively, take them at her commission, at her price, right? But she practiced, right? When we did these calls, I wasn't nice about all this, and she really has put the work in on her own subsequently. So look, I wanted to share that with you guys. It works for high-end clients, lower. It works. Listen, in the end, regardless of what it is, we're all people, right?
Yeah.
And what's true for you is true for you. These people all have their own perspective. Meet somebody where they are, ask great questions, and understand when they ask you that question, it has nothing to do with you personally. All it has to do with is the way you communicated what you offered to them. It's like when someone wants to sell you the $90,000 fully loaded model versus the $60,000 model that's a base model. The guys that sell the $90,000 cars communicate it where the other person feels what the value is. They understand it. So listen, we have a great agent talk tomorrow. Tom Dunn is one of the founding agents in Vail, Colorado. He's going to talk about work-life balance, selling high-end vacation properties, what it's like in a second home market, and what he does to really drive value and referral relationships with agents around the country. So I will talk to you later. If you guys have any questions about Mighty Networks, just send an email